welcome to the deep dive. So today we're really zeroing in on something practical, boosting your confidence for job interviews, specifically using English effectively.
Hmm.
We looked at this great language learning module you shared, and honestly, it's packed with really specific phrases and tactics.
It really is good stuff. And yeah, our mission today is to sort of pull out the absolute essentials. We're talking structure, confidence, and, the fluency you need to sound clear and professional when it counts.
Right. And the core idea, which I liked, is that preparation and practice are key.
Yeah.
It even says interviews are stressful for everyone, native speakers too, which is, well, comforting in a way.
Absolutely. And it makes a good point that preparation directly cuts down on that stress because when you're stressed, you often forget your best words, right? So if you've prepped these professional phrases, you don't have to scramble as much. It lowers the mental load.
Exactly. So let's get into segment one, setting the stage. This module really emphasizes understanding the typical interview structure first.
It does, but it's not just knowing the stages, it digs into how you sound. Two basic rules they highlight, which are, well, non-negotiable really. First, use the right kind of professional language. We'll get to examples. And second, crucially, pace yourself. Don't rush. Rushing just screams nerves.
Okay, don't rush. Easier said than done, right? Especially when you're feeling the pressure. How do you actually stop yourself from speeding up? You can't just, tell yourself to slow down.
Well, this is where a useful tactic comes in, something the source implies. Using bridging phrases, think of them as little speed bumps. So if you feel yourself talking too fast, instead of launching into the answer, use a phrase like, that's a really good question, or maybe let me think about that for a moment.
Oh, that's clever, yeah. It buys you a second, makes you sound thoughtful instead of just, well, reactive.
Yeah.
Like cadence control. You get to breathe, remember your point, and still sound polished.
Exactly. Cadence control, that's a great way to put it. And speaking of sounding polished, the source gives these mandatory opening lines, things you should just know.
Right? The polite greeting first. Simple, but you've got to nail it. Good morning, it's great to meet you. Clear pronunciation is key there.
And right after that, the enthusiasm bit. I'm really excited about this opportunity. It sounds basic, but it sets a positive, focused tone immediately.
Okay, but here's a thought. If you've memorized all these specific phrases, isn't there a danger of sounding, I don't know, a bit like a robot?
That's a fair point, a really important one. Look, the idea isn't to deliver a script verbatim. These phrases are anchors, especially right at the beginning or the start of an answer. You drop in the, I'm really excited about this opportunity, and that handles the first few seconds perfectly when you're probably most nervous. Getting that smooth start actually frees you up mentally to be more natural and, authentic for the rest of it.
Okay, that makes sense. Use them as a launch pad.
Yeah.
So you've set the professional tone. Now the next big chunk, tackling those 4 super common interview questions. Get these right, and you're in a really strong position.
Definitely. Let's start with the classic opener. Tell me about yourself. So many people trip up here. The default is just walking through their CV chronologically. The source says, don't do that.
Right. The interviewer has the CV. They want something else. The advice is to give a short narrative, focusing on your growth, and crucially, why you fit this specific job.
Yeah, think of it in maybe 3 parts. Quick background, then your key skills now, and then how those skills connect to the role. The example they give is quite smart. I'm a motivated person who loves learning new skills. I recently improved my English and communication skills through daily podcasts.
Ah, mentioning the podcasts. That's a neat trick. It takes something passive listening and frames it as active self-improvement. Shows initiative. You're showing, not just telling.
Exactly. And notice the strong verbs. Improved. Loves learning. It sounds much more dynamic than just saying, I listen to podcasts.
Okay, good point. Moving on. Question 2. Why do you want this job? This needs that enthusiasm again, but backed by substance.
Yes, substance is key. You have to show you've actually looked into the company. Research their values, their mission, something specific. It can't just be a generic, I want a job. It needs to connect your drive to their purpose.
And the suggested answer structure reflects that. I admire your company's values, and I believe my skills match this position perfectly. Short, confident.
And linguistically quite controlled. Using I admire sounds more considered than just I like. And saying I believe my skills match uses that modal verb believe. It's confident but not arrogant. It suggests certainty while, you know, still being open to discussion. Shows maturity.
Yeah, that combo works. It says, I've done my homework on you and I've thought about why I fit. Purposeful. All right, question 3. What are your strengths? This one feels like it's easy to either be too vague or sound like you're bragging.
Totally. The source is clear. Walk that line. Confident but humble. Assert your strengths but don't overdo it. Keep it brief, and the real key is having an example ready.
Okay, so the examples given are good starting points, like listing 3 traits. I'm organized, creative, and I work well under pressure. Standard good qualities.
They're concise. But we probably need to add a layer here. Just listing adjectives isn't quite enough for a top answer. The best approach. Follow up those words immediately with a quick, concrete example.
So use words like a headline, then add a short proof point, like say you're organized, then add something like, for instance, in my last project, I set up a new filing system that cut down report time by, say, 15%.
Exactly that. Trait, then proof. Preferably with a number or a clear outcome. That's what makes a strength convincing. Otherwise, it's just, well, words.
Got it. Which brings us to the final and maybe toughest question. What are your weaknesses? Everyone knows the trick is to spin it positive, but doing that smoothly takes skill.
It really does. Sophisticated strategy needed here. You need honesty, sure, but the main thing is showing you're actively improving. Frame the weakness as something you're developing, not a permanent flaw.
But what if they push for a real weakness? You can't just say, oh, I work too hard.
Well, you pick a genuine challenge, maybe one common for ambitious people, like perfectionism, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then you immediately talk about the specific steps you're taking to manage it.
Okay, and the source gives a really strong example of this turnaround. Sometimes I focus too much on details, but I'm learning to balance quality and speed.
Yeah, look at that structure. First part admits the challenge focusing on details, which often implies high standards anyway. But the second part pivots instantly with, but I'm learning to balance. That active I'm learning reframes everything. It shows self-awareness and a proactive approach. You're in control, working on it.
That's a really powerful structure. Okay, so that covers the content of the main answers. But like you said, content isn't everything. Delivery matters hugely. This next part is crucial for learners wanting to sound not just prepared, but genuinely natural, fluent even.
Absolutely. Delivery is fluency in this context. The source gives 4 really practical tips here. These aren't classroom exercises. They're specific tactics for performing well under pressure.
First one, no surprise, and something we always talk about. Listen to English podcasts daily. It's not just about learning words. It's absorbing the rhythm, the pauses, the natural flow of conversation.
That daily dose is so important for tuning your ear. Then the next 2 tips involve active output. You have to actually do it. Tip 2, practice speaking your answers out loud.
Yes. Not just thinking them through. Say them. Maybe even stand up, use gestures, connect the words to your body somehow.
And tip 3, the one people often avoid but shouldn't. Record yourself. Listen back. It can be a bit painful hearing your own voice, but it's the only way to hear what the interviewer hears. You can spot pronunciation issues, awkward phrasing, things you miss otherwise. Match what you hear on podcasts to what you produce.
Totally agree. It's invaluable, if slightly cringe-inducing at first. And the last tip ties back to what was said about rushing. Learn to pause naturally. We sometimes think fluency means talking nonstop, but real conversation has pauses.
Pauses mean control. They show you're thinking, choosing your words carefully. When you practice, deliberately build in short, natural pauses, not long silences and not filled with, but just a beat. It gives you that split second to recall better vocabulary, structure your next thought, and it sounds confident.
Put all that together, the content prep, the delivery practice, and the core message really lands. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It comes from solid practice. If you've done the work on the language, the structure, the delivery, you can walk into that interview feeling genuinely ready.
So just to quickly wrap up the key takeaways from this material, Mastering these interview skills comes down to, well, two things working together. First, the strategic prep, knowing the structure, using those bridging phrases, having your core answers ready. And second, the dedicated fluency work. Daily listening, speaking out loud, recording yourself, managing your pace with pauses.
And the main message for you listening right now is pretty simple, but it needs commitment. Keep practicing your English every single day.
Mm-hmm.
That consistency really is what builds true fluency over time.
Exactly. And maybe one final thought to leave you with, something hinted at in the material. We focused a lot on getting through the formal interview, the opening, the answers. But what comes next? How do you sound natural and, authoritative in ongoing professional chat, in meetings, collaborating, negotiating? The interview skills get your foot in the door. But what language tools do you need to sustain that confident, natural voice after the interview? To really engage and maybe even lead conversations in your new role, something to think about as you plan your next steps.